You'll die alone, Mom. Completely alone. My daughter Ashley screamed those words at me in my own living room. Her face twisted with rage I'd never seen before. Her husband Brandon stood behind her, arms crossed, nodding like she'd just said something profound. I was standing in the kitchen doorway of the house I'd raised her in, holding a dish towel, trying to understand how asking them not to take my late mother's china without permission had led to this moment. You're a bitter old woman who can't stand seeing me happy, Ashley continued, her voice dripping with venom. My hands started shaking. I'd sacrificed everything for this girl. 23 years of putting her first, of working double shifts at the hospital to pay for her college, of being there for every tear, every triumph. And now she stood in my home, telling me I'd die alone because I dared to say no to her. Brandon smirked. That look told me everything. He'd been poisoning her against me for months, making her believe I was the problem. I took a deep breath and made a decision that would change everything. My name is Patricia Summers. I'm 58 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect relationship with my daughter. Ashley was my only child born after years of trying. Her father, my husband Marcus, died in a car accident when she was just 7. From that moment, it became us against the world. I worked as a registered nurse, picking up every extra shift I could find. We lived modestly in a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs that Marcus and I had bought together. I never remarried, never even dated seriously. Every ounce of energy I had went into raising Ashley right, giving her opportunities one never had. She was smart, beautiful, and ambitious. Got a full scholarship to State University, but I still worked overtime to pay for her apartment, her car, her expenses. I wanted her to focus on her studies, not worry about money like I always had. She graduated with honors, got a good job at a marketing firm downtown. I was so proud. Everything changed when she met Brandon 2 years ago at a company event. He was a sales manager, smooth-talking, always dressed in expensive suits. Something about him bothered me from the start, but I kept quiet. I didn't want to be that mother, the one who couldn't let go. They got engaged after 6 months. I threw her an engagement party and spent $3,000 I'd saved for a new roof. When they got married last year, I paid for half the wedding. $15,000 from my retirement savings. Ashley barely thanked me, saying Brandon's parents had contributed more, so they deserved the recognition. I swallowed my hurt and smiled through the ceremony. After the wedding, things got worse. Ashley stopped calling as often. When she did visit, Brandon always came along, and the conversations felt strained. He'd make little comments about my house being old-fashioned, my furniture outdated. Ashley would laugh along, agreeing with him. Each visit felt like a small betrayal. 3 months ago, my mother passed away at 86. She'd been sick for years, and I'd been her primary caregiver alongside my nursing job. Ashley visited her grandmother maybe twice in those final 6 months, always with an excuse about being too busy with work. Mom left me her house and most of her belongings, including her precious china collection. It wasn't valuable in monetary terms, but it had been in our family for 3 generations. Mom specifically told me before she died that she wanted me to keep it, to pass it down to my grandchildren someday. At the funeral, Ashley barely spoke to me. She was too busy on her phone texting. Brandon didn't even pretend to look sad. 2 weeks after we buried Mom, Ashley called. Not to ask how I was coping, but to tell me she wanted china. She said her apartment needed nice things, and that Grandma would have wanted her to have it. I gently reminded her that Mom had left it to me specifically. That's when Ashley's behavior became aggressive. She started showing up unannounced, walking through my house like she owned it, pointing at things she wanted. Mom's antique mirror, her jewelry box, her quilts. Each time, I'd politely but firmly say no. These things were my connection to my mother, my memories. I wasn't ready to part with them, especially not to someone who couldn't be bothered to visit when Mom was alive. Brandon encouraged her entitlement. I'd overhear him telling Ashley that I was being selfish, that I was hoarding things that should belong to the younger generation. He'd say I was getting old and didn't need all this stuff. The manipulation was obvious to me, but Ashley seemed completely under his spell. She'd gone from my sweet, thoughtful daughter to someone I barely recognized. Last month, they announced Ashley was pregnant. I was overjoyed, ready to be a grandmother. But when I offered to help with the baby, Ashley said they'd let me know if they needed anything. It felt like a door slamming shut. The final confrontation happened yesterday. I came home from my shift at the hospital to find Ashley and Brandon in my house. They'd used the spare key I'd given Ashley for emergencies. They were in the dining room, wrapping up Mom's china in a newspaper, boxing it up. I stood frozen in the doorway, unable to believe what I was seeing. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Ashley didn't even look guilty. "We're taking what should have been given to us months ago," she said casually, like she was discussing the weather. Brandon added, "Your mother would have wanted Ashley to have these. You're being selfish keeping them locked away in a house where nobody even sees them." I walked over and took a plate from Ashley's hands. "Put them back." Now, that's when her face changed, twisted into something ugly. "You don't get to tell me what to do anymore," she hissed. "I'm tired of your controlling behavior. I'm your daughter. I deserve these things." I stayed calm, though my heart was racing. "Ashley, these belong to your grandmother. She specifically left them to me. You can't just take them." Brandon stepped forward, his body language threatening. "Watch us. You're going to die someday, and all this stuff will end up with Ashley anyway. Why make everyone wait? Why be so greedy?" That word greedy, coming from the mouth of a man who'd never worked a day of overtime in his life, who'd never sacrificed anything for anyone, made something snap inside me. "Get out," I said quietly. "Both of you, get out of my house right now." Ashley laughed, actually laughed. "Your house? You mean the house you're going to leave to me anyway? We're just speeding up the process." That's when she said it. Those words that would echo in my mind for days. "You'll die alone, Mom. Completely alone. You've pushed away everyone who ever tried to love you because you can't let go of anything. You're a bitter old woman who can't stand seeing me happy." I stood there, dish towel still in my hands, looking at the daughter I'd given everything to, and I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't just anger, though there was plenty of that. It was clear. For the first time, I saw the situation exactly as it was. Ashley didn't love me. Maybe she never had. Or maybe Brandon had corrupted whatever love had been there. Either way, the person standing in my living room, screaming at me, threatening me, stealing from me, wasn't my daughter anymore. She was a stranger wearing my daughter's face. "Get out," I repeated, my voice stronger now. "Take nothing. Leave my key on the table. And don't come back unless you're ready to apologize for everything you just said." Ashley's eyes widened in shock. She wasn't used to me standing up to her. "You can't be serious," she said. "I'm your only daughter. I'm pregnant with your grandchild. You're choosing some old dishes over your own family?" I looked her straight in the eye. "You're choosing dishes over me. I'm just refusing to be robbed in my own home." Brandon grabbed Ashley's arm. "Come on, babe. Let the old woman keep her precious junk. We don't need anything from her." They headed for the door, Ashley turning back to shoot me one last venomous look. "Fine. But don't expect to ever meet your grandchild. Don't expect me at your funeral. You've made your choice." The door slammed behind them. I stood in my dining room, surrounded by half-packed boxes of china, and started to cry. Not because of her threats, but because I'd finally seen the truth, and it broke my heart. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of Ashley's childhood, looking for where I'd gone wrong. Had I spoiled her? Had I given her too much, made her expect everything to be handed to her? Or was this all Brandon's influence? Around 3 in the morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the mother who kept begging for crumbs of affection. I wasn't going to chase after a daughter who clearly had no respect for me. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Thomas Burke. He'd handled Mom's estate and knew my family situation. I told him everything that had happened. Thomas listened quietly, then said something that surprised me. "Patricia, I need to tell you something. Ashley called my office 2 weeks ago. She wanted to know if there was any way to contest your mother's will, to claim the china collection and some other items." I told her no, that the will was clear and legal. She wasn't happy. My stomach dropped. So this had been planned. Ashley hadn't just impulsively decided to take China yesterday. She'd been plotting, trying to find legal ways around me. And when that failed, she'd decided to just steal it. Thomas continued. I think you should consider making some changes to your own estate plan. In your current will, everything goes to Ashley. Given yesterday's events, you might want to reconsider that. He was right. I'd made Ashley the sole beneficiary of everything, my house, my savings, my life insurance. It seemed natural. She was my only child. But why should someone who treated me like an obstacle inherit everything I'd worked for? Over the next week, I started making changes. First, I changed my will. I left a small amount to Ashley, enough that she couldn't claim I'd forgotten her, but the bulk of my estate now went to various charities. Organizations that had meant something to Mom and me, cancer research, children's hospitals, nursing scholarships. I updated my life insurance beneficiaries the same way. Then I changed the locks on my house. I put Mom's valuables in a safety deposit box at the bank. I removed Ashley from my emergency contacts at the hospital, replacing her with my friend Claire, another nurse who'd become like a sister to me over the years. Each action felt like cutting a thread, but also like lifting a weight. Ashley didn't call. 2 weeks passed in silence. Part of me hoped she'd reach out to apologize, to say she'd been wrong. But my phone stayed quiet. I mentioned what had happened to Claire one day during lunch break. She wasn't surprised. I've seen the way she treats you, Claire said gently. Like you're her personal ATM. I didn't want to say anything, but honey, that girl has been using you for years. Claire told me other people had noticed too. My coworkers had seen how Ashley only called when she needed money, how she'd barely visited when I broke my arm last year and couldn't work for 6 weeks. They'd watched me make excuses for her, justify her behavior, and they'd felt bad for me. Hearing this from someone else made it real in a way it hadn't been before. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't oversensitive. My daughter really had been treating me poorly, and it had been visible to everyone except me. I started going to a therapist, Dr. Helena Moore. I needed to talk to someone about the guilt I felt, the anger, the grief for the relationship I thought I'd had. Dr. Moore helped me see patterns I'd been blind to. How I'd taught Ashley that my boundaries didn't matter by always giving in. How I'd modeled self-sacrifice to the point of, I'm 5 months pregnant, and you haven't even asked about the baby. What kind of grandmother are you going to be? I took a breath. Ashley, you told me I wouldn't meet my grandchild. You said not to expect you at my funeral. Those were your words. She scoffed. I was upset. You know I didn't mean that. But you've made no effort to reach out, to apologize for how you treated me. Apologize. She wanted me to apologize. Ashley, you broke into my house and tried to steal from me. You screamed at me, insulted me, and issued threats. I've done nothing wrong. There was silence. Then, Brandon needs money. His car broke down, and we don't have savings because we've been preparing for the baby. Can you lend us $3,000? And there it was. The real reason for the call. Not reconciliation, not apology. Money. No, I said simply. Ashley's voice turned sharp. What do you mean no? I'm your daughter. We need help. I felt surprisingly calm. Ashley, you said I'd die alone. You cut me out of your life. You don't get to come back only when you need money. That's not how relationships work. She started crying, the manipulative kind of tears I'd heard so many times before. I can't believe you're abandoning me when I'm pregnant. What if something happens to me? What if I have complications? You're supposed to be my mother. I closed my eyes. I am your mother. And because I'm your mother, I'm not going to enable this behavior anymore. When you're ready to have a real conversation, when you're ready to treat me with respect, call me. But I won't be your ATM anymore. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt good. Stronger than I had in months. Over the next few weeks, Ashley tried different tactics. She sent text messages, first angry, then pleading. She had Brandon call, claiming I was causing Ashley stress that could harm the baby. She even had Brandon's sister, a woman I'd met once, call to lecture me about family values. I blocked each number calmly. Then the social media campaign started. Ashley posted vague messages on her accounts about toxic parents, about choosing your peace over blood relatives, about cutting out negative people even if they're family. Her friends would comment with support, not knowing the real story. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself publicly. Dr. Moore had taught me that I didn't owe anyone an explanation. The people who mattered knew the truth. My coworkers at the hospital supported me completely. Claire threw me a birthday dinner with 12 of our colleagues. For the first time in years, my birthday wasn't about making Ashley happy. It was about me, my friendships, my life beyond being someone's mother. 3 months later, in early December, I got a call from Diane again. She sounded worried. Patricia, I thought you should know. Brandon lost his job last week. He was fired for falsifying sales reports. Ashley is due in 6 weeks, and they're in serious financial trouble. They're about to lose their apartment. My first instinct was to offer help to save them. But I stopped myself. That's unfortunate, I said carefully. But they're adults. They'll figure it out. Diane hesitated. Brandon asked us for money. We gave them $5,000 2 months ago, which they said was for baby furniture. We just found out they used it to pay off Brandon's credit cards. My husband and I have decided we're not giving them any more money. They need to learn responsibility. I was surprised. That must have been a hard decision. Diane sighed. Brandon is 32 years old. We've been bailing him out his whole life. It's time he grew up. I just wanted to tell you because I know they'll be coming to you next. Don't give in. It won't help them in the long run. The call came 2 days later. Ashley's voice was different this time, smaller, scared. Mom, we need help. Brandon lost his job, and we're going to be evicted. I'm 7 months pregnant. I can't be homeless with a baby. I felt the old pull, the instinct to fix everything. But I remembered all the therapy sessions, all the boundaries I'd learned to set. What do you want from me, Ashley? I asked. Can we move in with you? Just until Brandon finds a new job. Please, Mom. I'm begging you. I closed my eyes. Ashley, the last time you were in my house, you tried to steal from me. You screamed at me that I'd die alone. Why would I let you move in? She started sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. I was wrong. Brandon, he's not who I thought he was. I need my mom. Please. Part of me wanted to believe her. But I'd heard apologies before, always when she needed something. Ashley, I love you. But I can't help you right now. You need to figure this out yourself. You're really going to let your pregnant daughter be homeless? Ashley's voice turned hard again, the victim act dropping. What kind of mother are you? I took a deep breath. The kind who won't be manipulated anymore. You made choices, Ashley. You chose Brandon over me. You chose greed over respect. You chose cruelty over kindness. Now you're living with those choices. She was crying harder now. I have nowhere else to go. Brandon's parents won't help anymore. My friends can't take us in. You're my last option. Being someone's last option, their emergency backup plan, hurt more than she probably realized. I'm sorry you're in this situation, I said honestly. But moving in with me isn't the solution. You need to contact social services, look into assistance programs for pregnant mothers. There are resources available. Ashley was silent for a long moment. Then, I hate you. You're not my mother anymore. When this baby is born, you'll never know them. You'll die exactly like I said, alone and bitter. She hung up. I sat on my couch, crying, grieving again for the daughter I'd lost. But underneath the grief was something else. Relief. I'd held firm. I hadn't given in. For the first time in my life, I'd put my own well-being first. Christmas came and went quietly. I worked extra shifts at the hospital, covering for colleagues with young children. Claire invited me to her family's Christmas dinner, and I went, surrounded by warmth and laughter, and people who genuinely cared about me. In early January, I heard through Diane that Ashley had the baby, a girl named Emma. They were living in Brandon's friend's basement, and things were tense. Ashley had tried to get her old job back, but they'd filled her position. Brandon was working part-time at a call center, barely making enough to cover expenses. I felt sad for baby Emma, born into such chaos. But I also knew that giving Ashley money or housing wouldn't fix the fundamental problems in her life. It would just postpone them. February brought an unexpected visitor. Ashley showed up at my house on a Saturday morning. I saw her through the window, holding baby Emma, looking exhausted and defeated. I almost didn't open the door. But curiosity got the better of me. When I opened it, Ashley didn't speak immediately. She just stood there, tears running down her face. "Can I come in?" she finally whispered. I stepped aside, and she walked into the living room, the same room where she'd screamed at me months ago. She sat down carefully, adjusting Emma in her arms. The baby was beautiful, with dark hair and Brandon's eyes. "Mom," Ashley started, her voice breaking. "I need to tell you something. Brandon left. 3 days ago, he packed a bag and left. Said he couldn't handle being a father, couldn't handle the stress. He's gone." I sat down across from her, unsure what to say. Ashley continued. "You were right about him. About everything. He was using me. He convinced me to cut you out because he wanted access to your money, your house. He thought when you died, we'd inherit everything. When I told him you'd changed your will, that I'd found out from the lawyer, he got so angry." Ashley was sobbing now, Emma starting to fuss in her arms. "I've been so stupid, so cruel to you. The one person who always loved me, always supported me, and I threw it all away for a man who didn't even stick around when things got hard." I watched her, this broken woman holding my grandchild, and I felt conflicting emotions. Vindication, yes. Sadness, absolutely. But also exhaustion. "What do you want from me, Ashley?" I asked quietly. She looked up, her eyes red and swollen. "I want to apologize. Really apologize. Not because I need something, but because you deserve it. I was horrible to you. I said unforgivable things. I tried to steal from you, from Grandma's memory. I chose a man over my own mother. I accused you of being bitter and controlling when all you ever did was love me and protect me." She wiped her tears with her free hand. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything. I just needed you to know that I understand now. I understand what I lost." I sat quietly for a moment, processing everything. This apology felt different from the others. There was no demand attached, no expectation of immediate reconciliation. Just raw honesty and regret. "Ashley," I finally said, "I love you. I've always loved you. But love isn't enough anymore. You hurt me deeply. You betrayed my trust, disrespected my boundaries, and tried to manipulate me. Those wounds don't heal just because you apologize." She nodded, tears still falling. "I know. I just wanted you to hear it from me. I'm staying with a friend from college, someone who knew me before Brandon. She's helping me figure things out, apply for assistance, and look for work. I'm going to therapy. I'm trying to become someone my daughter can be proud of." I looked at Emma, this innocent baby who'd done nothing wrong. "Can I hold her?" I asked softly. Ashley's face lit up with hope. She carefully handed Emma to me, and I looked down at my granddaughter for the first time. She was perfect, tiny and warm, and everything new in the world. "She's beautiful," I whispered. We talked for another hour. Ashley told me everything, how Brandon had been controlling, how he'd isolated her from friends, how he'd manipulated her view of me to serve his own interests. She told me about the financial abuse, the credit cards he'd opened in her name, the debt she was now responsible for. She talked about her plans to rebuild her life, to be a good mother, to eventually make things right with me. I listened, and when she left, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet. That would take time. But maybe the beginning of healing. After she drove away, I called Dr. Moore. She apologized. I told her. Really apologized. No strings attached. Dr. Moore was quiet for a moment. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Cautiously hopeful, but also firm in my boundaries. I'm not going to rush back into enabling her. If we rebuild our relationship, it has to be different this time. Dr. Moore agreed. "That's healthy, Patricia. Love and boundaries can coexist. They have to." Over the following months, Ashley and I talked regularly on the phone. She sent pictures of Emma. We met for coffee once, then twice. Slowly, carefully, we started rebuilding trust. She paid back the small amounts of money I'd lent her over the years, even though I'd written them off. She respected my boundaries, never asking for more than I offered. She went to therapy, worked on herself. One day, nearly a year after our confrontation, we were having lunch when Ashley said something that surprised me. "Mom, thank you for not giving in. Thank you for standing up for yourself. If you'd just forgiven me and taken us in, I'd never have learned. I'd still be making excuses for Brandon, still expecting everyone else to fix my problems. You loved me enough to let me face consequences. That's real love." I smiled, tears in my eyes. "I'm proud of you, Ashley. Proud of the mother you're becoming, the person you're becoming." She reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm sorry I said you'd die alone. You'll never be alone, Mom. You have people who love you, who respect you. And now if you'll let us, you have Emma and me." I squeezed her hand. "I'd like that very much." We still had work to do, trust to rebuild, wounds to heal. But for the first time in years, I had hope. Not for the relationship we used to have, but for something better, something built on mutual respect, healthy boundaries, and genuine love. Sometimes the bravest thing a mother can do is let her child face the consequences of their choices. Sometimes love means saying no. And sometimes, when you refuse to die alone as someone predicted, you end up surrounded by people who truly value you, including the daughter, who finally learned what family really means.